Okay. Okay. Good evening, good evening, good evening, good evening, everyone. Hello. Wow. I'm so glad to be able to be back on Facebook. Oh my goodness. Um, I am Lady Victoria of Victoria School of Etiquette, where we have a solution to all of your etiquette dilemmas. I'm broadcasting to you live from the great windy city of Chicago. Hey, it's Chi-Town. That's what we like to call it. We are the best in the Midwest, and we are broadcasting to you tonight our What About Wednesdays platform. What About Wednesdays? Let me make a couple of adjustments here. Okay, What About Wednesdays platform. And so man, I've had some dilemmas all week long. Usually, when I'm broadcasting during the weekday, I'm broadcasting from my place of work, my regular 9 to 5. It's not really a 9 to 5, but I'm broadcasting to you from here because I am here more so than I am at home. And so we have just had some internet dilemmas, situations, and problems all week long. So it seems like that we are back and everything is back on track. And so I can kind of get caught up with a few things here. So my top look yellow. Anyway, tonight. What about Wednesdays? What about Wednesdays? You say, what about Wednesdays? What is it about Wednesdays? Well, What About Wednesdays is a platform that Victoria School of Etiquette uses to address those issues and concerns that you might have when you're in a BPS situation. You said BPS? What's BPS? Business, personal, or social situation. You find yourself in a dilemma where you may not know what is the correct etiquette protocol or manner to execute at that time. And so we're going to address some of those issues on our What About Wednesdays platform. We have a different topic every week. And this week, we're going to talk about rude behaviors, rude people, and rude behaviors. People that just don't want to exercise good manners, even when it's right there in their faces. There we go. Even when it's right there in their faces and they don't want to exercise proper manners, they're just not going to do it no matter what. So that's what we're going to talk about tonight. So I want you to come on in, tag a friend, tag a neighbor, tag a frenemy. There is something here tonight for everyone to learn, and come on in and please share across your social media platforms if you would. I would appreciate that. And tag someone and have them come on in. And so before we get started with our What About Wednesdays, because I've had some dilemmas, we're going to have our Tuesday tidbit is going to tag along on tonight. And so we're going to do that as well. But before I get into the show and the platform, I really want to make a couple of announcements about some things that are going to be coming up on Victoria School of Etiquette. We are also going to be talking about, some of you may know and some of you may not know that I began mentoring young girls and young women several weeks ago, and I'm so proud to announce that I was finally able to graduate my first class of preteens, tweens, ages 9 to 11 years old, and I'm so proud of them for how hard they worked over the past 8 weeks navigating 2 of our signature programs with Victoria School of Etiquette. The first program that we did was Mirror Mirror, which is a self-esteem program for young girls and women that want to find their real person, find out who they really are, or at least be made aware of the tools that would help them to navigate and find out who they really are. They did an excellent job with that program, and I'm so proud of them for that. The other program that they tapped into was our Navigate the Plate program, which is Dining 101, Navigate the Plate, Dining 101. And so this is where they learn how to properly set the table, where they're able to identify all of the utensils on the table, the flatware, the dishware is there, and what their purpose is. They learn how to set them up in the proper order. They learn how to implement correct behaviors and manners when they are dining. And by that, I mean which style that they use when they are dining, whether they use the American style of dining or whether they use continental. They're two different styles. And of course, most of us here in America, we use the American style of dining, but then there are those that do use the European style, and they are very different. So I'm very proud to have graduated those young ladies from Wentworth Gardens, the Wentworth Gardens Teen Girl Club. Yay, shout out to them. They know who they are. And so I'm really, really glad that they were able to participate and that they were able to complete the program. So that's one of the things that happened in recent weeks. And so what's going to be coming up in the next 2 to 3 weeks, we are going to continue with that program about self-esteem, and we're going to talk about women today in self-esteem, and more specifically, women on the plus size. How do they handle self-esteem? Is theirs any different from mine? If I'm a size 10 and you are a size 20, should you look any different than me as far as how you carry yourself, as far as your self-esteem and your confidence is concerned? Should you be any different than I am? Is it any different for the plus size woman? Well, listen, I know a young lady who is so in charge of her self-esteem, plus size woman, and she has such a handle on it. She does not have a problem talking to the itty bitty women, as she might call us, the itty bitty women. She has no problem talking to the itty bitty women and letting them know, hey, just because I'm a big girl doesn't mean that I'm not confident about who I am, what I do, and where I'm going. So we're going to have that young lady come onto our show, and she's going to share some tips and pointers, not just for the plus size woman, but for any size woman. But she's specifically targeting the plus size woman because they just seem to get a different deal when it comes to how they feel. And that is not how any woman should feel. We all should be proud and confident of who we are and how we look and how we dress and all of that. So she's going to bring her own special savvy and come on to Victoria School of Etiquette show and talk about that. And then the next program that we're going to have coming up, we're going to talk about prom season. You say, why are we talking about prom season when school is out and prom season is over? We're talking about it because it is such a big deal. I have a local fashion designer who is an expert in her field, expert in her arena, has been doing this business, I think, for probably 30 years or more. And she is going to come on and give us some tips and some advice and some things that we need to be wary of, and some things that we need to be concerned about when we're sending our children off to prom. We're not just going to address the women in the group, but we're also going to address men, young men, because of course they go to prom too. So we're going to touch on all of those bases, what's trending in the prom world, and what it is that you need to watch out for, moms and dads, as you begin to get your teenagers ready for prom on next year. You're like, well, wait a minute, school is out and what's going on? You need to be thinking about it now, because it is such a huge industry. It is such a huge market. Until you need to be thinking about it now, so that your son or your daughter doesn't show up to the prom looking like everybody else. I'm giving you just a little bit of insight, looking like everybody else, wearing colors that may not be suitable to them. You have to think about skin tone and those sort of things. I don't want to give away too much. You need to think about the money that you're spending. Are you going to use someone locally to make your daughter's dress or to make your son's suit, what it is that they are wearing? Or are you going to, go to the store and buy off of the rack? Are you going to order off of Amazon, a third-party store? We're going to be discussing all of those things and so much more. Jewelry, makeup, shoes, all of that. I tell you, it's really going to be a little mini series, and I'm so looking forward to that, just as much as I'm looking forward to the self-esteem piece. Actually, these two programs go hand in hand, and so we're talking about it now as a post-prom review. And so this will give you some inside information from experts in the field that can share newsworthy information as you start thinking about prom season now for your children in next April, May, and perhaps early June. So those are our upcoming announcements. Those are the things. So look for the hashtag, watch the page for that news and that information that will be coming forward. So now we're going to get started with our show for tonight, and we're going to piggyback a little bit. We're going to go back a little bit, and we're going to do Tidbit Tuesdays first because we weren't able to do that on yesterday. And so Tidbit Tuesday is just, just a short program where I come on and give, hey, Shavella, hi, oh my gosh, it's so good to see you. How are you? Thank you for joining us on tonight. So we're going to go back with Tidbit Tuesday, and it's really going to tie into some of the upcoming information that we're going to be talking about, the 2 upcoming shows, what we're going to be talking about, Mirror Mirror, the self-esteem program, and this prom fashion review. So we're talking about fashion on tonight. What happened 10 years ago? How did we look and how did we dress 10 years ago? This is just a short one. I'm going to give you about 5 things that you might want to think about that were going on just a decade ago. Do you know that just a decade ago, bell-bottom pants were still a big deal? I remember wearing bell-bottom pants when I was a young girl, but 10 years ago in the 90s, they were still a big deal. And everybody wore them, girls and guys alike wore them. So that was a thing 10 years ago, a fashion piece that was unisex. Oh my gosh. The other thing, turtlenecks. Do you remember turtlenecks? I think I might still have a turtleneck or two. As a matter of fact, I know I do. But I remember the season when they were so popular until everybody wore them all the time. You wore them with a suit jacket. You could wear them with a sweater. You just found different ways to wear them and to dress them up, but they were still a big deal. But I don't see them so much anymore. Not that much anymore. But turtlenecks were a big deal. And somebody said whoever invented turtlenecks must have been a man that had something against a woman. I don't really know what that means because, again, that's a unisex piece of clothing, but it was still popular 10 years ago. So we're talking a little bit about the fashion industry. Remember gaucho pants? I remember gaucho pants. Gaucho pants was still a big deal 10 years ago. And every now and then, I still see them. I still see people wearing them sometimes. Not that much, but it was another item that was a big deal 10 years ago. Remember tank tops? Now, we still wear tank tops today, but 10 years ago, the layered look in tank tops was still a big thing going on. And as I remember, the more layers you had, 3 or 4, and the different colors that you had, that made you more cool for some reason if you were able to do that. And then designer tank tops, the Abercrombie and Fitch, oh gosh, who else? Aeropostale, American Eagle, Hollister. That made you super cool. You were really on top of your game if you were wearing those. And then ladies, remember jewelry, fashion jewelry back 10 years ago. Remember choker necklaces? Remember choker necklaces? If I take this and, like it would be like this. Remember chokers? When we wore choker necklaces and you had to have one that was suitable for every occasion. You had your everyday one that you wore all the time. This isn't a choker, but I was just giving you an example of what they're like. So you had to have one for everyday wear, and then you had to have one for when you went out on the town with your glitz and your glam. So you had one that was studded and dudded and all of that. Those were a big deal not that many years ago. Let me see, 1 or 2 more chokers. Oh, overalls. I always hated overalls. I was never a fan of overalls. I wasn't a fan then, and I'm not a fan now. So these are just some of the things that were trending about 10 years ago in our etiquette fashion world. And if you pull out pictures and show them to your children, those of you that are old enough and you have children that can, have a sense of fashion, they're going to be looking at you a little bit cross-eyed. Mom, Dad, what in the world were you wearing? So I don't pull up my pictures all that often. But that's Tidbit Tuesday. But to add to that, I will say this. You know what? If you have any of these items and you can still wear them and you can still rock them, go ahead. Suit yourself, because you know what? It's your world. And as long as you look good and you feel good about it, hey, I don't have anything against it. So that's just a Tidbit Tuesday note. We're going to move on now to our What About Wednesdays platform. What About Wednesdays? What About Wednesdays? I think I said at the top of the show, this is the platform that we use to address those unfamiliar or those difficult etiquette situations that you might find yourself in a BPS situation. BPS stands for business personal, and social. So when you're in a business, personal, or social situation and you find yourself faced with a mannerism or a behavior and you're not sure how to execute it, this is where you can tune in every Wednesday and learn a little bit of something about what you should do in those situations. And so I oftentimes get these questions when I go different places or when I go to speak somewhere. If I'm on various platforms, people will always say, well, Lady Victoria, what about this situation? And this is how we came up with our topic on tonight. On just last week, someone asked me, well, how do you handle rude people in public? What do you do with them? A complete stranger that you don't know, but they're just rude. They're just deciding to be rude. And so you always want to execute good manners and you always want to be gracious. Again, one of the main tenets of etiquette is making people feel comfortable in situations around you. So actually, I tell people all the time, etiquette protocols, those are standards and they don't change. But manners, everyday manners and etiquette, they change and they evolve all of the time. But there's a real simple rule to how you execute manners. Most of the time, it's common sense, sprinkled with a little bit of how you want to be treated. So just think about the golden rule. How would you want someone to entreat you in a situation where perhaps you aren't being the nicest person on today? We've all had situations where we just woke up that morning on the wrong side of the bed, and no matter what else was going on in the world around us, our world was not going so well. And so sometimes we find that being rude, we're the rude person. We're the rude person. So I'm going to go through like maybe 10 points of how to handle rudeness when you're in a public or even when you're in a private situation. How do you handle rude people, and what should you do and or say or not do and or say? So number 10, you fight rudeness with kindness. Most people respond to you being kind to them, to you being saying something nice to them. They will respond. Sometimes that will be the thing that will deactivate them. And God bless you, Pastor Ross. Hey, Tabitha. Tabby, I need to talk to you later tonight. So sometimes when you handle people with kindness, people respond to kindness. I mean, even a dog, animals respond to kindness. I'm not talking about the vicious ones, that are out to kill. But if you just respond kindly, you don't know what their day has been like, and you don't want to allow another person's rudeness to take you out of character and to make you respond with some of the same. It's not always an eye for an eye. Someone is rude to you, they're saying something to you, not using nice language or what have you. Just consider, maybe you don't know what their day has been like. So I think the best way to diffuse rude behavior is to stay friendly, stay helpful, giving the other person a chance to calm down, adjust their behavior, and get on the same level as you. So you never want to stoop down to another person's level, but you always want to be able to bring them up to where you are. So fight rudeness with kindness. And then don't try to force the change, because there are some people, like I said, they just got up on the wrong side of the bed that morning. I've been guilty of that, gotten up on the wrong side of the bed that morning. And that was the day when I said, you know what, I'm not in a good mood. Don't talk to me today. So I just said it up front. I just let people know up front. But you can't make people be nice. They don't want to be nice. Some people are chronically rude. That's just how they live their lives. So no amount of kindness is going to change that person. No amount of good morning, good afternoon, no amount of, you know what, I'm sorry, I apologize, I digress. No amount of that is going to change chronically rude people. This is how they live their lives. And so you can't come in treating them with kindness and thinking that that's going to evoke a change in them. It isn't. And you have to know the difference. You do try. You put forth your best foot. But when it doesn't work, sometimes your best option is just to accept that that's their rudeness, that that's their behavior, that's their lifestyle is not your fault. Move on and leave them to their own solution. Sometimes walking away is just the best thing that you can do. Number 8, understand that for these chronically rude people, it's a habit. It's how they live. It's how they exist in society. And unfortunately, again, some people just don't want to be nice. Some people don't mind cussing you out, and you cussing them out won't make a bit of difference to them whatsoever. So this is how they live. They take bad behavior just as a lifestyle. It's a pattern for them. This is how they go about effectively trying to navigate their way through life, by being rude to people. It's habitual, and the only thing that's going to change that is that they come to a recognition and a realization that, you know what, I've been behaving this way for years. Hi, Aura. I've been behaving this way for years, and so it has always somehow worked for them. And so this is just how they navigate life. So unless they realize that they need to make a change inwardly, it won't change. So habitually rude people border chronically rude people, but chronically rude people exceed habitually rude people because they don't see anything wrong with their behaviors, their mannerisms, the way they talk to people, the way they entreat people, even the way they carry themselves. That's just them. Hey, this is just me. And so this is how they act, and that's not going to change. But habitually, that can be changed, because all habits, all you have to do is start considering that you need to make a change, affect a change. And some people say all you need is 6 weeks. Some people say all you need is 21 days to break a bad habit. So if you find that you're one of those persons, then I just say to be really, really effective with it, write it out, because we know that the things that we write out, the things that we read, that we see in front of us every day, the things that we post to ourselves every day, the things that we record on our phones and listen to every day, that is a form of meditation. Meditation starts here, it ends up here in the heart, and then it affects a change. So if you want to help yourself in that way, I suggest that you do it that way if you want to break a bad habit of being rude to people. Okay, consider offering help. This is point number 7. Consider offering help when someone is being rude to you. Isn't it weird that sometimes people are rude and they don't realize that they're being rude? I don't understand really how that works. But yet again, I do understand how that works, because sometimes people have just not been exposed to a better way to do a thing or to say a thing. Sometimes people sincerely don't know. And so for those people, you have even more compassion, and you offer to help them change when they don't realize that they're being rude. It's a simple case of bad manners, and sometimes people do not realize that they are executing bad manners. I say to people and to clientele all the time that etiquette is a way of life. It is a lifestyle. You choose to be nice to people. You choose to be considerate to people, even when they're being rude and inconsiderate to you. It is a lifestyle choice. It is a way of living. It affects every area of our lives. And guess what? Etiquette begins the moment you enter the room. So when you have someone that's entreating you poorly, and maybe they don't realize that reaching over you to get at something, if you're at a dinner table, could be business, personal, or social, BPS, maybe they don't realize that reaching over your plate to grab the butter is rude. Because another thing I say, the manners that you practice at home are the ones that will show up in public. And so if this is how you dine at home and no one has ever said, don't do that, then you don't know that you shouldn't do that. But you never correct a person that's executing poor manners publicly. You wait until you have a moment to pull them to the side, and then you address it then. Well, what if it's a complete stranger? Well, if you're dining together as a group, then you wait for an opportunity at the end of the meal, preferably when you are leaving, and you can simply say, hey, you know what, Victoria, it was so nice meeting you. I'm glad I had an opportunity to sit next to you and chat and get to know you a little bit better. Girl, you know, we all have to work on just polishing up and doing the right things. I understand sometimes I may get nervous when I'm in a public situation. And so, girl, next time just ask them to pass you the butter. You do it in a kind way. You do it in a way that's considerate of the other person, because you don't want to hurt their feelings. Perhaps they really, truly did not know. And so that's the position that I like to take. I like to think that sometimes people just don't know, and they aren't doing it purposely, but they're doing it out of a lack of knowledge. And you can do this when it's within your power to do so, but you don't want to, like I said, do it in the moment, because it might be embarrassing to them, and you might cause them to be even more frustrated, even more upset. So you may see them switch from rudeness to gratitude when you offer to help them, when you give them some information. So that is tip number 7. So tip number 6, sometimes you just have to let it go. Drop it like a hot potato and just let it go. Because again, I think this borders on the people that are chronically rude, and no matter what you say, no matter what offering you give to them to help them along the way, maybe they just aren't receiving it. They just aren't receiving it at all. They just aren't receiving it at all. And they don't care what you're saying. They don't care what you're doing. They don't care how you're phrasing whatever it is that you're trying to say to them. They don't care about that. So you don't want to, again, put them in a situation where it's going to make matters worse. And so then in that situation, you just let it go. You just walk away. Sometimes that's just a better thing to do, is to just walk away from it. And I want you all to feel free to, add your comments. Let me see. Am I missing out on some things here? Because sometimes I can't always see all of my comments, but it looks like we're good right here. And I lost my place here too. I'm sorry. So you don't want to make a situation worse. So again, just walk away sometimes when you find out that you can't help a person, they're refusing your help, or they're just going to, again, be chronically or habitually rude. Just walk away, because you want to always remain gracious. You always want to remain gracious. Don't allow other people's behavior to change how you would act in a situation, how you would respond in a situation. Don't allow that to happen. So when you can't help, when you can't do good, then just walk away. Just leave it alone. And it'll be better for you, and it will be better for them. Now, I know I've been in situations sometimes where I've offered a point of advice, or, a tip or something like that, and people have responded, well, you know what, I never did it that way. Well, that's not how I grew up. I just don't think you need to do all of that. Well, maybe you don't, but in my world, I do. I think it's nice to be nice to people, and it's good to be considerate unto others. And so in a situation like that, we're going to go back to the other points where don't force it. Don't try to force the change. Don't try to make them do what you want to do or the way you want them to do it. You just give the information. You give the information, and once you give the information, what they do with it is up to them. But at least you have given them the information. Now they have the tool. But you can't make them use it. You can't make them use it. We've all heard that phrase, right? You can take the horse to the water, but you can't make them drink. You just can't make people do things that they don't want to do. Full-grown adults, you just can't make them. So, but giving them the information is a great thing. What they do with it then becomes their responsibility, because you've done your part by giving them the proper tools. So, you know what, and I lost my place, but I'm going to find it again. So again, I said, don't let their behavior change your behavior. So that's another point. Don't let other people's behavior change your behavior of how you respond. Don't let them take you out of your comfort zone. Don't let them take you out of your place of grace. And then you become just as bad as they are. Poor manners should not beget poor manners, right? Poor manners is an opportunity for you to step up to the plate and, like I said, be a source of information, be a source of help, and be a source of really compassion. Sometimes people just don't know. And then what do you do when you discover that you're the rude person? Because sometimes it's us and not them. What do you do then? You know what to do, but you just have the I can't help it today. And so this is just how I'm going to be today. For me, when I find myself in a situation like that, I will usually go with preamble and say, you know what, I'm really not in a good mood today. So can you just leave me over here? I know you're over there. I'm going to be over here. But I actively work at trying to get myself together, because whether I am in business, personal, or social, I have to regroup and get myself together. I can't tell someone else about executing good manners if I'm executing poor manners. And you don't have to be an etiquette consultant or trainer or educator to do that. You can just be a nice person. That's for everyone to do. It's showing favor to your neighbor. So when you're the rude person and someone corrects you, accept it with grace. Accept it with grace and move forward, and just know, you know what? Today was my bad day. Today was my turn. I was not on my P's and Q's on today. And so you accept it with grace, and you know that that's a situation that you're not normally in. And so you just accept it and you move on, and you apologize. You apologize when you know better. You apologize, okay? Another way to diffuse people is good communication. Sometimes people might be rude because they didn't understand the information that was given them. And so if the information came from you, then you can go back and rephrase it or just repeat it to them so that they know. Now they have an understanding, and so now they can carry out what it is that you've asked them to do, instead of being frustrated because they heard wrong information, and so it's making them behave in a way that's not favorable. So you want to always make sure that you use open communication when you're talking with people, so that they understand exactly where it is that you are coming from and exactly what is expected of you. Be precise in your communication and be precise in your own behaviors. Be an example to others that are around you. Again, tenets of etiquette. Top one is making other people feel comfortable around you. So when you're out of order, you can cause your world around you to get out of order as well. So always make sure that you use an open communication, that you are very explicit in your instructions and your directives and what you expect from people. And let people know what they can expect of you, right? Let people know what they can expect of you. Another tip is that when you are in a public situation, this is one that I get and I talk about it all the time, and you see the person next to you, or you see the host when you're at a dinner party and you see the host grab the wrong silverware or grab the wrong utensil, you don't correct them publicly, but you go with the flow on that one. Even though the host or the hostess is out of order at that time, maybe they're using their dinner fork while they're eating their salad, or maybe they are, maybe they're slurping, like slurping a drink or something like that. Or this is one that I really love. When you get the finger bowl at the table, and sometimes people don't know that the finger bowl is for you to wash the tips of your fingers because of what you're being served. Maybe you're being served, especially in a barbecue house, you would get that. In Chinese dining establishments or Japanese dining establishments, where sometimes they might have sticky foods. If you're being served seafood, oftentimes the finger bowl is there. It's not a little bowl of water. It's not a little bowl for you to drink out of. It is a little bowl for you to put your fingertips in and for you to wash your fingertips, and you do it against the edge of the bowl, and then you tap your fingers against the edge of the bowl before you take your fingers out. You take the napkin, or sometimes they may give you an extra fingertip towel that should be on the left side of your dining utensils, or they will hand it to you and you lay it across your lap on the left side as well. And you dry your hands, dry your fingertips in that, and then you take it and you fold it over. And where do you place it? Not on the table, because now it's wet. So you do not place it back on the table. There is oftentimes a little tray or a little plate that they will have at the edge of the table, always on your left side. You place it there, and then you pass it to the right. You always pass things to the right, to your neighbor sitting next to you, so that then they can partake of it, and then they will put their towel there. But you never put wet things back on the table. And this is just another tip also. Once your utensils come off of the table, they don't go back on the table. Once they come off of the tablecloth, they never go back, because once you use them, now they're soiled, and so you don't want them going back onto the tablecloth to soil it or to dirty it. So it always goes on the side of your plate. It will oftentimes go at the top of your plate. Your knife always goes at the top of your plate, blade facing in towards you. And that's how you dispose of that. So that one you got for free. That had nothing to do with rude behavior, but it was just another tidbit of information that I was throwing in there. So rude people, the best way to diffuse them oftentimes is with kindness. And I had someone say to me over this weekend, well, I just want to get back with her because she was being rude to me in public and she didn't even know me. And so I just wanted to get with her. Sometimes we do feel that way. But I always say, stop. Take a deep breath. Take a woosah moment. Woosah. It gives you a moment to collect your thoughts. It gives you a moment to regain where you are, what you're doing, not so much how other people might see you, but how you're going to see yourself when you look back in reflection on that moment and think, I can't believe I said that to that person. I can't believe I behaved that way. I can't believe I elevated my voice that loud to where other patrons in that establishment could hear me. I can't believe that the maitre d' had to come over to our table. I can't believe. So you don't want those I can't believe moments. So just take a moment, regain yourself, regain your footing, recognize and realize that this is one moment in your life. And you don't want that one moment to define you for however long, right? Because you only get one time to make a first impression. You can have a situation where you can improve upon the impression that you've made, but that's oftentimes hard work because that person or persons have seen you in that character. And so now this is how they think of you. So when they see you coming, they're like, oh, whoop, here she goes again. Nope, I don't want to be bothered. I don't want to be in a situation where I'm going to have to deal with her like that. So these are just some of the tips that you can take to heart about handling rude behavior. And it doesn't matter whether it's in a public situation, a private situation, whether it is among family members, whether it is among friends, or whether it is among complete strangers. The behavior on your part remains the same. Always try to diffuse with kindness. If that doesn't help, walk away. Diffuse with kindness, offer help, or walk away, or turn the mirror around when you recognize and realize that you're the one exhibiting rude behavior today. So, Ms. Victoria, you just get yourself together, take a woosah moment, regroup, and then do what comes to you naturally. Kindness, compassion, Show favor to your neighbor and recognize and realize that this is an impression that this person may have of you for forever. They may never see you again, but they still will carry the impression of that moment. And it may be life defining for them in that they see how you reacted on top of their behavior, and maybe it will incite them to want to change. They may want to say, you know what, I really didn't like being treated that way. She came right back at me. And so maybe I need to change how I'm doing things. Maybe I need to change my perspective. Maybe I need to change my outlook. And so that is those are some of the tips for our What About Wednesdays on today. And as I said at the top of the show, I've been without internet for like 2 or 3 days, and so I hadn't really been able to broadcast. But I'm so glad that you are here, that you joined our platform on tonight. And I will ask you again to please share across your social media platforms. Please like and share. And if you're not, if you haven't checked the box to follow me on my page, Victoria School of Etiquette, I sure would appreciate it if you would like and follow us. I usually pre-post when I'm going to do a broadcast. So wow, this concludes What About Wednesdays for this evening. But again, check the page and check the notifications and the hashtags that will be coming up when we're going to talk about the plus size woman, the confidence of a plus size woman versus a size 2. Woo! That's going to be interesting. That's really going to be interesting. I'm looking forward to doing that show with a dear friend of mine who has a lot to say to us. She calls us the itty bitty people. I absolutely love it. So we're going to be talking about that in the next week or two. And then following that show, we will do our post-prom review. We're going to talk about what's trending in the prom industry. And you say, it's summertime, Victoria. School is out. But yes, it's not too soon to start thinking about your son and daughter for next year. You don't want them showing up looking like carbon copies of everyone else, wearing the same color and the same style of dress. I have a local fashion designer who's going to come on and give us all of the hot topics and the must-knows and the things that we should and should not be doing for prom season on next year. So please join us and watch for those announcements as they will be posted on my page to let you know when those shows will be airing. I thank you so much for being here. Thank you, Aura, for the love. Thank you, Shavella, for being here, and everyone else. I so appreciate and love you. So this is Lady Victoria broadcasting to you live from Chicago, Chi-Town. We like to call it. It's the best city in the Midwest. I'm saying goodnight to you now, but I'll see you again on What About Wednesdays next week. You all have a blessed one. I'll talk to you guys later. Bye-bye.